Meet your husband.
So we met randomly in Rome, which is one of my favorite cities, and it's such a romantic story. So I went down for breakfast. Now, meanwhile, this is during a tournament. I never eat breakfast during a tournament because I'm always nervous. I have all these nerves, and I always stay in my room, and I'm always like watching film and studying. But this time, I'm like, I don't care. I just need to get.
For years, we all believed we were watching a modern-day fairy tale unfold. Serena Williams, the unstoppable force who rewrote the history of tennis, and Alexis Ohanian, the Reddit co-founder who seemed to exist only to celebrate her every breath, built what looked like the perfect union. She had the power, the glory, the unmatched legacy. He had the wealth, the wit, and the adoring devotion. Their love story was the stuff of glossy magazine spreads and red carpet perfection, the kind of marriage that made even cynics whisper, maybe true love is real after all. But now, the whispers have shifted. What was once a symphony of admiration has turned into a low, ominous hum of suspicion. Divorce rumors swirl, and the silence coming from Serena and Alexis themselves has left fans desperate to know, was it all just a carefully constructed illusion?
I love you so much, and you had since the last time I saw you, you got married, and you have a beautiful new baby.
Oh,
That's fantastic.
I love her so.
We've seen the cracks forming in real time. Gone are the days when Alexis flooded social media with grand tributes, declarations of pride, or sweet snapshots of Serena courtside. Instead, his feed has become curated glimpses of fatherhood, heavy on photos of their daughters, light on any trace of his wife. The captions are distant, almost sterile, subtle enough that casual observers might shrug, but sharp-eyed fans know the pattern has shifted. This is not the Alexis who once wore sweatshirts emblazoned with Serena's face or flew her across the world just because she craved Italian food. This is a man who looks like he is rewriting his public identity, piece by piece. Is this strategic damage control, a soft launch into single dad territory? Or are we simply witnessing a husband trying to keep it together while the world speculates about what's falling apart behind closed doors?
She's very romantic, but she's standing in front of me, and I can tell she's really unsettled by it, really uncomfortable. And I held her, and I said, "It's cool, we're gonna keep going." But in that moment, I was like, "Okay, there's something here. There's a connection." And in that moment, thanks to that poor rabbit, I found love in spite of everything else.
Congratulations.
The timing only fuels the fire. Serena's stunning Super Bowl halftime cameo with Kendrick Lamar turned into a cultural earthquake, not just because she strutted onto the stage, but because of what she chose to dance to. Not Like Us, a song designed as a direct blow at Drake, the man who once orbited her world in ways that Alexis never seemed entirely comfortable with. As the crowd erupted, Serena's Crip Walk wasn't just a dance. It was a statement, a move dripping with layers of history, defiance, and possible provocation. And just when we thought that was juicy enough, the rumor mill coughed up its biggest bombshell yet. An insider claimed that Drake himself had sent Serena a handwritten letter just days before the performance. A letter filled with remorse, with confessions, with the kind of words that dredge up a past most assumed had been buried under wedding rings and baby announcements. If that letter exists, was Serena's performance a sly nod to Drake? Or worse, was it a pointed signal aimed at Alexis, reminding him that even in retirement, Serena still controls the spotlight and maybe the narrative? The speculation doesn't stop there. Stephen A. Smith ignited the debate on national television when he declared that if he were Alexis, he'd walk away immediately. If I'm married and my wife is going to join trolling her ex, go back to his S, because clearly you don't belong with me. Bye, he thundered on ESPN. Harsh words, yes, but they echoed the uneasy questions so many were already asking. Why would Serena, a global icon with everything to lose, poke the bear of her old relationship in front of millions? And why now? The fact that Alexis responded publicly with calm support, posting that he was rooting for his wife and celebrating her cameo, only makes things more complicated. Was that genuine pride, or the polished restraint of a man trying not to unravel in public while private wounds fester?
Tell me the odds, Stephen. You know what? I would beg to differ on one hand because she's actually a total nerd.
Oh, really?
Indeed. And we actually met through just random circumstance.
The Drake connection has always hovered like a shadow. We remember the courtside appearances, the rumors in 2015, the infamous fashion show sightings, even the whispers that his song Too Good was inspired by her. Their flame may have fizzled years ago, but it never really stopped smoldering in the public imagination. Add to that Drake's 2022 diss, where he labeled Alexis a groupie, and Alexis's sharp clapback, proudly claiming to be the best supporter for his wife and daughters. And suddenly, the triangle doesn't look so neatly closed. If Serena really did receive that letter, and if her Super Bowl performance was a deliberate echo of the past, the emotional stakes are staggering. Imagine being Alexis, sitting in the stands watching your wife dance to your rival's diss track, knowing the world is already dissecting every glance, every step, every pause. It's not just uncomfortable, That's humiliation on the world's biggest stage. What's most chilling, though, is Serena's silence. She hasn't denied, clarified, or reassured anyone. Not the fans, not the press, not even the voices in her own corner who might be begging for clarity. For a woman who built her empire on strength and control, silence feels less like indifference and more like strategy. But strategy for what? Is she protecting her marriage by keeping quiet, or is she letting Alexis twist while she reclaims her narrative without him? We've seen Serena write essays about leaving tennis, about motherhood, about the cost of fame, about the battles she's fought on and off the court. When it comes to her marriage, however, she says nothing. And sometimes, nothing speaks louder than anything else.
Daughter of you and your lovely wife, Serena Williams. Right there, there you are. How, Alexis? Because I knew you before you were married to this lovely woman. How does a self-described, unequivocal nerd end up with one of the greatest athletes in recorded history? How does that come about? It's not a natural match.
You know,
This is the sort of thing I could have won a lot of money if I bet on this. The odds would have been pretty good.
And now we're left with a picture that looks less like a fairy tale and more like a slow-motion implosion. The man who once seemed like the ultimate doting husband is scrubbing their story from his feed. The woman who danced her way into history is cryptically aligning herself with a diss track against her ex. And in between them, 2 young daughters, a family empire, and the eyes of the world. The question that lingers, the one no one dares to say too loudly but everyone is thinking, is this. Is Alexis clinging to what's left? Or are we witnessing the unraveling of a marriage that once seemed untouchable? And in Serena's silence, do we hear peace or the storm waiting to break? The fallout from Serena's Super Bowl cameo was immediate and brutal. The internet split into 2 camps. Some saw her crip walk to Kendrick Lamar's track as a victory lap, a declaration that she would never again be defined by men or their grudges. Others called it a reckless move, a deliberate taunt that poured gasoline on a fire everyone thought had burned out years ago. Twitter threads unraveled for hours, TikTok was flooded with side-by-side clips of her history with Drake, and Instagram lit up with fans, debating whether Alexis had been made a spectator in his own marriage. Behind the memes and headlines, though, a darker narrative started to take shape, one suggesting that Alexis had no idea what was coming. Insiders insist that he was blindsided, seated in the stands like everyone else, forced to process in real time what his wife had chosen to put on display. And that raises the question no one can escape. Was this Serena's way of sending a message to Drake, to Alexis, or to both?
There's no quitting. There's no slowing down.
There's no slowing down.
You just want more.
I want more. I'm having fun. And
The timing feels surgical. Just months earlier, their anniversary tributes painted a picture of harmony, with Serena posting about their years together and Alexis responding in kind. Then came this performance, executed on the world's largest stage, with millions watching live and billions more in clips that refuse to fade from the feed. If Alexis didn't know the details beforehand, what does that say about the state of their communication at home? Is this Serena reminding the world and perhaps Alexis that she controls her own legacy with or without his approval? Or was it the ultimate revenge play, forcing him to watch as she rewrote their marital script in real time? And while the world was still picking apart every frame of that halftime show, Alexis made a move of his own. Paparazzi cameras caught him slipping into a discreet Parisian restaurant, not with Serena, not with a fellow tech titan, but with Patrick Mouratoglou, Serena's former coach, mentor, and rumored flame from the not-so-distant past. To the untrained eye, it might look like 2 men sharing a business meal, but for those who know the backstory, the optics are devastating. Patrick isn't just another figure in Serena's orbit. He was there during her comeback seasons, her Grand Slam battles, her injuries, her terrors. He knows her in ways few people ever have. So why was Alexis meeting him now, at the exact moment his marriage is being dissected by the world?
last thing I want to do. Things just happen to just fall like that. I necessarily go out and see, what's popular and let me do that. I just like to go with the flow. I don't want to overthink it. And I think the more natural you are and the more it's just real, for lack of a better word right now, the more real it is, I think it's just more relatable. And
Some suggest Alexis was digging for leverage, quietly trying to gather insight into Serena's history before any potential divorce proceedings explode. Others whisper that the dinner was no coincidence at all, that Mouratoglou himself may be circling back into Serena's life, and Alexis was desperate enough to confront the past head-on. The timing makes it hard to believe this was an innocent catch-up. When marriages start to crack, dinners like this don't happen by chance. They happen because someone is preparing for the storm. The truth is, even without a scandal, fame alone can be corrosive. When two people live at the intersection of sports royalty and tech empire, the normal boundaries of marriage collapse. Serena spent decades on the road carrying the weight of being a global icon, while Alexis built his fortune in the unforgiving startup world where one misstep can erase millions of dollars overnight. Add to that the constant attention, cameras following their every move, strangers debating their every expression, and the pressure becomes unbearable. It is not simply a relationship between two people anymore, it is a performance for an audience that never blinks.
But I definitely had a real champion's mentality. I hated to lose. Like, I was just this person that was always intense from as long as I remember. Even before I played tennis, I was just always just like super intense kind of person and perfectionist. And I think that maybe, I don't know, maybe he saw something in me, and we all have kids and we can kind of see what we see in our
We've seen this play out before. Celebrity couples often enter with passion and the illusion that love can outlast the spotlight, only to find that the spotlight itself becomes the third partner in the marriage. Every Instagram caption is parsed for hidden meanings. Every public outing is compared against the last. Every moment of silence is spun into a narrative of trouble. The very intimacy that binds two people together is weaponized by outsiders who are eager to find cracks. And once the speculation begins, it rarely fades. The scrutiny becomes part of the relationship, shaping decisions, fueling arguments, and amplifying insecurities. For Serena and Alexis, the stakes are even higher. She is not just an athlete, she is a symbol of strength, resilience, and female power. He is not just a tech mogul, he is the man who married into a legacy. Together, their brand has become almost as important as their bond, and brands must be curated, polished, and protected. That responsibility can make love feel like a business arrangement. Was every anniversary post heartfelt, or was it strategic? Was every public show of support sincere, or was it just maintenance of the fairy tale? These questions don't just come from fans, they creep into the couple themselves, breeding doubt.
I figured worst case scenario, if she blows me off for the weekend, I have a great story of how I just got blown off for a weekend in Paris, and I've got friends there, and I was gonna have a good time. So I let her know that I was actually gonna be in town, and it was just a perfect coincidence. I was supposed to be in Paris anyway. I wasn't.
Very smooth.
And so we have to ask, is it possible for any celebrity couple to survive this relentless cycle of adoration and dissection? The higher the pedestal, the more eager the world is to see the fall. What starts as fairy tale romance becomes a spectacle of unraveling, leaving us with cautionary tales rather than happy endings. Serena and Alexis may be the latest, but they are not the first, and they will not be the last. Their story forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Perhaps in the world of fame, privacy, and genuine connection are luxuries even love cannot buy. What adds more fuel to this fire is Alexis's calculated silence after the meeting. No photos posted, no acknowledgement of the encounter, no attempt to spin it as harmless. For a man who built a career on transparency and public image, the decision to keep this under wraps screams strategy. And when a strategist goes dark, it usually means one of two things. Either negotiations are already underway, or the revelations are too damaging to manage. Could Alexis be laying the groundwork for a custody battle, a financial separation, or is this about something deeper? Control over Serena's name, her image, her billion-dollar brand? Meanwhile, Serena's own behavior hasn't made things easier to read. On one hand, she continues to project strength, appearing at fashion events, promoting her ventures, smiling with her daughters. On the other, she avoids questions about Alexis entirely. Her refusal to clarify anything has only magnified the intrigue. Every move, every caption, every appearance becomes part of the puzzle. Is she quietly building her independence while Alexis scrambles to rewrite the story? Or is she holding her silence as a power play, letting the world and her husband sweat until she decides to speak?
I'd like to think she had a hidden agenda. But she assures me that it was just purely professional. She was just interested in taking my numbers so that she could ask me questions about tech and some of the businesses she was interested in. And one thing led to another, and she had made what I would call an LA invite for me to come see her play in France. And I didn't know this was a thing, but she'd made me the invite with no intention of actually taking me up on it.
The narrative has spiraled so far beyond their control that even the most innocent gesture now feels suspicious. A father-daughter post from Alexi is dissected for hidden meanings. A cryptic emoji from Serena sets off entire Reddit threads. Even outsiders like Stephen A. Smith fuel the spectacle, his words echoing through sports talk shows and gossip blogs alike. When outside commentators are speculating about the survival of your marriage on national television, the line between private and public has already collapsed. And once it collapses, there's rarely any going back. The bigger question is whether this marriage can survive the weight of two empires, a history riddled with high-profile exes and the crushing pressure of public scrutiny. For years, Serena and Alexis embodied the fantasy of a love story, immune to fame, money, and controversy. Now, that illusion is cracking, and the pieces are sharp enough to wound both of them. If Alexis is preparing for battle, Serena may be preparing for something even bigger. The chance to step out of the shadow of their fairy tale and remind the world that she doesn't need anyone to define her. But if that's true, then Alexis's fight isn't just for his marriage, it's for relevance in a narrative that no longer requires him. So we have to ask, what happens next? Will Serena and Alexis fight to stitch the cracks together? Or are we witnessing the final act of a love story that fooled even the closest of observers? Will Alexis's quiet dinner with Patrick prove to be the beginning of a larger war, or the desperate act of a man who knows the ending has already been written? The cracks are no longer invisible, the whispers no longer silent, and the world is watching every move. What do you think? Are Serena and Alexis holding on by a thread, or has the fairy tale already shattered? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this saga is only getting darker. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and remember, every fairy tale has its ending.